Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So it is August and that means we're doing another birth month flower. August's birth month flower is the Gladiolus. I think I'm saying that right. Anyway, we're gonna learn how to draw it and then paint it with watercolor. So let's jump right in. Okay, so to start, I'm just gonna go through my materials. I have Canson watercolor paper today that I'm gonna be using to draw on. You don't have to use watercolor paper, use whatever paper you have. This is just the paper I had handy and it's nice and smooth and the pen will go nice and smooth on it. So just any paper. I have a pencil and an eraser, and then I have my black pens. I'm using Tombow mono drawing pens in a size 03 and a 01. The difference is that just the thickness and the nib, I like to use the thinner ones for shading. But if you don't have this, don't worry about it, just get a black pen. We're just learning how to draw the flower, and then we will move on to the watercolor portion after. Okay, so let's start. We are going to be drawing the Gladiolus flower, which is August birth month flower. It is beautiful. I love these stocky flowers. So let's jump right in. I'm gonna start with just a guide of a line of the stem, okay? Just really lightly because we're gonna be erasing this. And I'm gonna start with the top little buds that have not bloomed. So you're gonna start at the top here with just kind of like a curve and then a point like that, and then another one like that, okay? And then you're gonna draw a little bit of a stem and you'll have another one coming out this way. Long curve and a point, and then another one coming down like so, okay? Have our stem. Let's do one more on this side. Long curve and a point, like that. Cute, and now we can start drawing the flowers. So the Gladiolus flowers, they're actually quite easy. I want you to think of kind of like a star, so like 5 points, and there are different types of ones. There are some with like more rigid edges. I'm gonna try and make this a little easy for us. So you're gonna do one petal coming up here, and again, try not to make it too perfect. And then another one coming down. You can go right over that stem line. You're just gonna kind of curve it because these ones are flopping down. And then another one over here, like that. And then one to the side. You can go over that little bud part. And then one on this side. Okay, and then you're gonna have the stamen of the flowers coming like that. All right, and then I think there's like maybe another one there, but you're just gonna be really loose with it, okay? And then we're gonna do another one over here. So you can overlap, because once we go over with ink, we'll decide what lines that we're gonna keep. So let's do another one over here. Okay, that initial one at the top. You're gonna have the ones pointing down to the bottom. One, two, one at the side. And it's almost better if your hand is kind of shaky because then you get those kind of rigid lines. You have one come peeking out the bottom here, one on the other side. Okay, simple. Let's do another one. All right, again, same kind of thing over here. One, let's do the two pointing down. Two, three, 4, 5, and then one peeking at the bottom, like that. Let's do another one over here. We'll do one more. So the one at the top, one at the bottom, the other one at the bottom, like that. You can do those little stamen parts, but we kind of have the idea of where our flowers are. And then we're gonna do some leaves. So let's bring that stem down here, kind of stocky stem, and then we're gonna have long leaves that are gonna go behind these flowers, kind of like tulip leaves, like that. Just coming behind, like so. Okay, so now that we have the outline, we can start drawing with our pen. So I'm gonna take my bigger nib, the thicker one, and I'm gonna go over all the pieces that I wanna keep. So bring that down. that. And remember, have these ones in the front because they're folding down. You're gonna see kind of the edge here, and then we're gonna do a lot of shading in there. Again, making those kind of rigid edges. Okay, and we'll do the stamen, little dots on the edge of those. Okay, next one. As you see, I'm kind of not even following my guide here. I realized I wanted to push it up a bit more, and that's okay. Like that. Coming down here like that. Now let's do our stem and then the leaves. Take it off like so. Okay, so now we have our outline. You are going to erase all the pencil marks. So now that we have our outline, we can start shading, and this is one of my favorite parts. So let's start with the ones up here, and we're just gonna do some little strokes with the curve of the bud. And they're closer together at the base, so that's where the most shadow would be. And then you can even pick one side that would be a bit darker. I'm just doing really, really fine lines like that. And then same for the stem. We're gonna make it a bit darker. Just doing fine lines like that. Okay, so you want the darkest part to be at the base of the bud. And always curve your lines with the curve of the flower or the bud. Because if you just do straight lines, it won't look natural and it could look a little weird. Okay. And then this one is behind this flower, so we're gonna do more shading towards the base here. Like that. Okay, and now when we get to the flowers, again, like I said, you're gonna have most of the shading towards the center, okay, where the stamen is. So this top petal here, we're gonna have these lines that are kind of curving with the shape of the petal. Okay, you can even have some lines coming down, just really short, curvy lines. And then as we get close to the base inside here, we're just gonna color it in just a little bit. Do some more lines like that. And then these petals that are flopping over, we're gonna have lines coming down the middle like this. And again, kind of darkening the base there. So it really gives it some depth. I always try to go a bit longer in the middle and then shorter around the sides. Like that. Okay. And then the petals underneath, you're gonna have the shading as well. So again, longer in the middle and then shorter towards the sides, and you can even really color in right in that crack to show some shadow. Same thing over here, longer in the middle, shorter on the sides, and then just shading in there. And again, have a couple little lines coming from the tips like that. Okay, so we're gonna do that for all the flowers. And then will come right. And then, yeah, we're just gonna do that. Okay, so now that we're done all the shading on the flowers, we're just gonna darken up that stem. So the stem would be coming behind here. We're just gonna do some darkness where that stem would be coming down. And I want it darker than the flowers, so I'm just really kind of coloring it in with some rough lines, like that. Okay, and then the leaves, same kind of thing. I want these flowers more to stand out, so we're gonna do more shading on the leaves. So again, just doing some lines coming from the base. And then any chance that you see them kind of behind the flowers, we're gonna do some darker shading. Okay, so start with those lines and then get a bit darker. Well, it kind of looks like it's folded. I like that. So I'm just going to darken the side. Oops. And really just darken up any parts that are kind of right behind a flower. So here. That, and then these ones, just darkening it up. And as you can tell, I'm pretty messy with this. Like, don't overthink it. I mean, you can go a lot slower for the purpose of the tutorial. I can't speak. I'm going a little bit faster because I don't want you to just sit here and watch me shade for like an hour. But I'm going a little bit faster and it's kind of on the messier side, but I don't actually mind that look, so you could definitely do this a lot neater. But I'm not a neat person. I'm quite messy. Like that. And there you go. There is your gladiolus flower. And now we're gonna get into painting a watercolor version of it. Okay, so now that we have drawn the gladiolus, we are going to paint it with watercolor. Okay, so I'm just going to get my pencil. I'm using Arches cold press watercolor paper, my Winsor Newton professional watercolors in my palette. I have my size 6 and size 12 Princeton snap brushes with me. And I'm just gonna kind of plan it out before I do it a bit. So I'm gonna just draw the stem. I think we're gonna do a bit of a curve. Just kind of where we want our things to be. Okay, and then I'm just gonna kind of plan out where I want the flowers, and I'm gonna make them a bit smaller on this one. So I'm just gonna very lightly do our top petal, bottom petals, those two bottom petals there, and then those side petals. Remember, jagged edges. Make that petal a bit bigger up there. Jagged edge. And then underneath, jagged edge. So we have one there. I'm gonna do another one on this side. So let's do our top petal, bottom petal, side, side. Okay, so we have those two flowers, and then I think the rest I'm gonna have kind of blooming. So I want to kind of put where I'm gonna put the top little bloom here, or bud. So do like a long kind of bud shape, like that. One on this side. One on this side, like that. And then maybe one over here that's starting to bloom. So do one of the little curves, and then we can do kind of like wonky little petals coming out of there. And then one on this side too that's starting to bloom. Okay, like that. And then we can do one, and then remember these flowers have to connect to some sort of bud too. So you can just kind of draw one behind, And then I'll do another bud kind of starting to bloom over here too. So just, it doesn't really look like a flower, just kind of do some funny looking petals coming out. Like that, if that makes sense. And then we can do the leaves after. Okay, so now I'm going to erase all the lines that I don't need. And then I'm gonna lighten them up as much as I can because I don't really wanna see them behind my watercolor. You can use watercolor pencils if you have them, and then it will just kind of blend into the watercolor when they're wet and activated. I don't necessarily like using them because I like to erase what I don't need, and I usually tend to erase a lot. So for me, I don't really like that, but you can do whatever you like. Okay, so now we are going to start painting, and I'm gonna start painting the flowers first, yes. And I think for these, I think let's do a purple. So I'm gonna take some dioxazine purple and some magenta to make kind of a magenta-y purple. I'm really good with my words. Okay, and then I'm gonna water it down really nice and light. Always start with a light wash. And I'm gonna go over my petals. Again, make them jagged, very loose, easy. I'm doing the 3 initial petals first. And I think what I might try and do is I'm gonna wash off my brush completely, dry it a little bit, and I'm gonna just kind of put a little bit of water, clean water there to push the color back. So it's lighter towards the center. I'm gonna get some of those blooms that we try to avoid. Drop a little water in the center and that will push the color back to the back of the petals and it'll be lighter in the center. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of more purple and I'm gonna tap the edges to make those a little darker. Like that, okay? And then I am going to do the petals behind with a really light wash. And I'm gonna try not to touch those petals in the front. I want a little bit of separation. And the reason why I'm trying to add the water there to push the color back rather than just doing a really light wash and then adding the darkness around, sometimes when you get a water bloom like that and it dries, it gives kind of like a cool textury pattern. So I just wanted to try it out and see how it goes. Add a little bit of water there, a little bit of water there. Like that, okay? And if it looks too crazy, you can try and blend it a bit. I just want to push that color back. Put a little bit more color at the tips. You can even drop a little bit of pink in there too. Like that. Just have fun with it. There's no rules. We'll see what happens. Just adding a bit more purple. Like that. Okay. So there's our first flower. We will go back in and do a bit more detail in a bit, but let's do it again with this one. So our little mix of a wash. Do the first 3 petals first. Like that. I'm gonna wash off my brush, grab a little bit of clean water, drop it in the center, like that. Grab some more color, tap the edges. And the trick with this is water control. Try not to have too much water on your brush because then it will just kind of expand and go everywhere. If you're unsure, always dab it on your paper towel, especially if you're a beginner, just sometimes it helps. Like that. And grab your little bit of pink again. Throw that in there. Okay, whatever works. Again, grab your light wash, do the petals behind, try and leave a little bit of white space. Oh, and this one has a petal down here. Oh no, we were gonna do the green. I don't know. Blip, blip, blip. I will tell you that I've already tried this painting today to film it and it didn't work out. So if it doesn't work out for you this time, try it again because it might the second time. And who knows, maybe this won't even work out. I don't know. Gotta love traffic in my area. Okay, grabbing a bit more color. Tap those edges. Again, adding a bit more clean water in there to push the color back. Okay, like that, and we'll leave that to dry. If your darker lines are a bit too harsh, you can just kind of blend it together with a clean, dry brush. Okay, totally up to you though and what you want it to look like. There we go. Okay, so now I am going to do some of the buds that are starting to bloom. So again, grabbing that light wash, and we're just gonna kind of do some of those petals. Like that. I can do it even a little bit lighter too. Leave a little bit of white space in there randomly. Grab a little bit of pink maybe. Tap some pink in there. Grab a bit more purple. Maybe a little bit of darkness towards the bottom there. Okay, let's do this one here. Like that. Then this one here. A little bit lighter. Changing up the value of your petals too just kind of makes it stand out. So I have some darker petals, some lighter petals. Changing up the colors a bit. Then I like to make it a bit darker towards the base. Okay, like that. Okay, so now that those are done, we can move on to the buds. Now let me just lighten these up a bit more because I don't want it to be showing through the green. Okay, so for the green, I want more of a limey green, which I already have here, but I'll just show you how I made that. So I got some sap green and then a bit of lemon yellow, which you can tell I dip my green in there a lot. I don't really use that color for anything else except to make more of a lime green. And then I might even grab a bit of burnt umber just to kind of neutralize it a bit. A little bit more yellow. Like that. And I'm gonna grab a light wash and I'm gonna go over my buds. Even lighter wash, there we go. 1, 2 curves, like that. I'm gonna grab a bit more sap green, tap the bottom a bit, and then even a bit of brown, like that, okay? I'm gonna follow the stem with that brownish color. Oops, wipe it off. Grab our lime green again. Lighter wash. 1, 2. Grab a bit of sap green. Grab a bit of the brown. Tap the bottom like that. Okay. You can even grab just a little bit of yellow and just throw it in there too, because these buds are quite limey colored. Okay, again, one here. And every time I go and dip it in my water, I'm just taking some of that pigment off. Get some brown. I'm just using burnt umber. I didn't mention that already. Can't remember. Okay. And then we're going to do the parts around the buds that are blooming. Try and make sure they're dry unless you want a little bit of a color bleed, because if you don't mean to, it will just, like it says, a color bleed. You'll get the purple running into the green. We're gonna add some brown. Might even take a little bit of that green up. It's a little bit too dark. Same with this one. A little bit darker where the flower kind of meets the green. Okay, and then we're gonna go follow it around. And then this one also has green that's kind of encasing the base of the flower. Follow that stem. Okay, same with this one. It's gonna have that bud part. I really gotta learn the terms for these, the parts of the flower. Bringing it down. Add a bit more green. And then this one too. Might even grab a bit of dark green and just throw some dark green in there. And then I'm gonna wait for those to dry too and do a bit more detail on them once they're dry, but yeah. Okay, let's do some leaves coming off of it. So let's grab our lemon yellow, our sap green, and a bit of burnt umber to get this like limey, neutral kind of green. And then we're gonna do leaves coming from the stems, lift it off, follow through like that. Coming behind, they're kind of long leaves like a tulip, maybe a bit thinner. Just fill it in. Okay, grab a bit more color and you can dab it in there. Let's do one on this side. Come up and it can kind of curve. Like that. I'm gonna grab a bit more darker green and add some darkness in there too. So I'm using a perline green, I think it's called. Drop it in underneath here. Like that. And then maybe a bit more brown too to make it a bit more neutral. And just throw some bits of brown in there.
like that. Okay, and so we're gonna wait for this to completely dry and then we will do a little bit of detail. Okay, so now that's dry. Let's start with the buds up here. I'm just gonna grab a light wash of that greenish brownish color we had, and I'm just gonna separate those buds with the tip of my brush using light pressure so you can get some really nice little lines. And I'm just gonna do some like shading lines almost. Really light pressure, like that. And you're just kind of splitting that bud in half, so there's two halves. Really light hand. You can always use a smaller brush too if it's easier, but you want to use a light wash too so it's not overpowering and it doesn't look unnatural. Get a bit of darker green towards the base of the buds, like that. Same kind of thing, splitting it in half and just doing some light lines. Like that. If you want to do a couple on the leaves too, you can, just some light line shading. Not too much though. Get some darker green in here. And really separate that stem from the leaves. So let's make it a bit more prominent by making it a bit darker. Like that. Okay, now let's go to the buds up here. And we're gonna separate some of those petals too. So I'll cut that in half and then do a little bit of line shading. Like that. You can grab a bit more darker purple if you need to. Just a little bit more towards the bottom. Same thing here. Like that. Okay, and now for the flowers, like I said, it's lighter towards the center. So let's wash this off. And we're gonna kind of cut these petals. So these ones, I'm gonna do a line over here. Then I'm gonna do a little bit of line shading. I'm gonna try and take some of that pigment off and just do really, really light lines. Okay, you can grab a little bit lighter or more. Again, cut this off here. Light wash. Use a smaller brush if you need to. Like that. And then you can go back in with just a little bit of darkness. Just tap there. Just a little bit. Okay, and then you can do, again, light wash, doing a couple lines, because we're gonna need a stamen in the middle too, so don't make it too dark. Just want a bit of texture. Then grab a bit more, and then you can start doing some lines from the top. And these can be darker. You can even grab pink too if you want. Light lines from the sides. Like that. Okay, let's get in the center of this one, really, really light again. Let's cut this petal off so it's like it's folded over. Your line's coming down. Same thing with this one. And then this one. Okay. And also the side ones. Okay, and then we'll get a bit darker, even a bit of pink. Do those lines at the top. Maybe a bit of darkness in the middle. Like that. Okay, and then the last petal down here, again, cut that kind of in half so it's like its own petal. Do some line shading from the base. Same thing on this side. Add a little bit more pink. And you do some lines from the top too. Like that. There you go. Let's sharpen up the buds that are holding these guys right here. Okay. Let's make it a bit more defined, like that. A little bit of line shading towards the bottom. And then again, if you want to do it up here to these ones, just a little bit of texture, you can do that. Okay, and then once the center of these ones are dry, you can take your purple, so more pigmented, and you're just gonna do little lines for the stamen. So you're just gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then you can do a little boop on the end like that. And then there's one that kind of comes up the center, just a little bit lighter, and then has some little things at the end. You can also do this with white too. I might actually get my white paint out. Let's do 1, 2, 3, the ends, and one long stamen. And then, yeah, I'm gonna get my Dr. Peach Martin's Bleed Proof White ink. And I'm just going to wet it up a bit. And I'm just gonna go over those parts here. Yeah, make them white. If you don't have the white ink, don't worry about it. It's not necessary. And there you go. And there you go. There is your Gladiolus watercolor flower. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.